What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Bitcoin today, BTC USD. Hit that like button, subscribe, and thank you all for being here. It is it's the 29th. We're moving right through this month, you guys. It's the 29th of January of this year, 2026, and here we are at about $87,800, roughly 9.5 hours left in this day. Hit that like button, subscribe, and thank you all for being here. We're dumping off, we're selling off a little bit, and I'm sure the price action to some people is super scary right now. You know what I will say is that this is one of the bigger candles that we've seen. It's not the biggest candle. We've certainly seen bigger ones, but this is one of the bigger candles we've seen. And as far as volume goes, it's really not that big. It's really not that much volume at all. It's actually one of the lower levels of volume that we've seen. Really, in years, right? As far as like days go, we're on some of the like 10% or less of volume. Now, what I will say is 9.5 hours left in the day. That's still a lot of time. That's still a lot of time. The stock market opens literally in like 1 minute. We'll see if more volume comes in, but if we're moving down with low volume and then volume comes in, that might make me think that we move up with some volume. We might eat it back. We might move up. I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the day we came back up, but let's see. Let's see. It is possible that we go lower. It is possible that we take out this low. It is possible that we do both of those things and we still move higher afterwards. It's completely possible. I do not believe, and I'm taking the same stance that I've taken since we were down here. I do not believe that we're breaking down to the downside. I do not believe that this is some giant bear flag or that we're going to be seeing prices below 70K or anything below this low here. Maybe the worst case scenario would be that we get a slightly lower low and then we bounce and it's like a double bottom overall. But we've seen that happen before, right here. We've seen that happen before, right here. We've seen that happen before, right here, and then we moved up, but then we moved down, right? We've seen that happen kind of like this right here. I don't know, but it happens pretty damn often actually throughout this whole cycle. So let's look at the short-term stuff. I don't believe, and I want to be very clear, I don't believe that we go below this low. That's not my stance yet, but let's just see where it might go. Okay, let's look at the 1 hour and then we'll zoom out from there. 1 hour time frame, looking at this here. As you're moving lower, you are dying off in volume. You already have some of the least significant volume that we've seen in years on a daily basis, right? There's 9.5 hours left, so maybe that's not so fair of me to say. But in this very low volume day already, your volume is continuing to decrease. And again, maybe the volume will come in, maybe it'll start to increase because the stock market opens up now. It's literally like as of now, the last 2 minutes it does. But that might come to the upside. I wouldn't be surprised in the least if we barred it out of here and by the end of the day we were back up at above 90K. We'll see. Let's look at the 1 hour indicators and just see what's going on here. But again, in case it's confusing, there's a lot of volume down here at the bottom. We actually had a lot of volume come in on all these pumps. We had good levels of volume coming in on all these pumps. And now here we are making a move down where we have actually less volume and less significant volume altogether. It's less iterations, just a couple big spikes here really, and then nothing other than that. We're here, there's an island of spikes, an island of spikes, an island of spikes, all at these low points where we start pushing the price up again. Here, when you're making a debatably larger one fell swoop move than you've seen throughout any of this, you have less volume. No, I don't think this is real. I fully believe we're going to move up from here. And watch, I bet, oh man, I'm not trying to laugh. I'm not trying to laugh. I'm not trying to be a dick. I just think, watch, it wouldn't surprise me if since November 21st, all the people who've been using these lines and thinking that we've broken out to the downside, if they fell for it again right here, because we've done it so many times. We've done it so many times, right? We did it right here from a low to a low there, connecting the dots. As soon as we broke down, oh no, we're going to break down, guys. We're going lower. They did it right here. As soon as we broke down, oh no, we're going to go lower. As soon as we broke through, people probably sold at the lowest point. We went a little bit lower there too. And we're even down at that point now. But again, we will look back at this as the low area where you should not have sold. Just like we looked back at this, right? The day that we broke through was here. Did we go lower? Sure. This day was technically lower right here. But still, we look back at that area as a bad decision, bad time to sell. And it hasn't just been doing this to the downside. We've been doing this to the upside, right? We connect the dots there. As soon as we get above that high, boom, that's the perfect time to sell. We've been doing this since November 21st, and people, bulls and bears alike, have been falling for it effortlessly. This moment with low volume on a breakout, It certainly doesn't seem different to me at the moment. Man, I'm going to get some hate if I'm wrong in this video. I'm bringing you a little attitude, I feel like. Maybe not. I don't know. I don't know how it's being received. 1 hour time frame here, looking at the RSI, it actually had a really bullish posturing. This is disappointing to see it actually come down here. I would not have called for this. I definitely would have expected that we'd go higher. But here you do have a bit of a lower low, lower high trend. And typically these trends end in the oversold zone. So even if we do go a little bit lower from here, a little bit's probably going to be the key, right? And that's going to trigger people to sell because we're seeing lower lows. People will panic. They'll sell at the worst possible time, and then we'll probably move back up with a vengeance. Stochastics technically have bullish divergence. The MACD is probably useless here. Technically, it's bearish, but I don't know, man. You were bullish here, and that was the very high. That was the top. You know what I mean? You were building bearish momentum here at the zero, looking like you wanted to cross below, and then you found support. It was at a relative low. You looked pretty bearish here, building bearish momentum, but that was your low overall. You know, like I don't know. I don't trust this, especially on a 1 hour time frame when you're doing stuff like this. I don't trust the MACD so much. 4 hour time frame here, looking at this. Rejecting the overbought zone. That's no fun. We do still have these higher lows in which we could come down even further and still form good structure that's bullish and positive and likely takes us to overbought zones. Do I expect us to take this low out here from the 25th of January? I don't. Do I expect us to go lower than we are now at 87.7K? Yes, I do. How much lower is the question. From a low here to a high there, well, we're right at the golden ratio zone. I can't imagine that we go too much lower. I mean, this could be it. The low right now is 87.6K. But if we do go lower, the lowest I'd give us would be about 86.5, 86.6. I doubt that we go below there. My suspicion is that we will probably find support somewhere between the current price and within the next like $300 down, maybe. This really could have been the low at the time of making this video. If not in this zone, then the statistical probability of finding support at the 87K level I think is really high. Less likely that we go down here, but it could happen. But I would think 87K holds the support, if not 86.5K. But I don't even know if we make it that low. It's completely possible that we find support in this zone here that we're in right now. So we'll see. In other words, how much lower are we going to go? It doesn't really matter. It's really not significant. I mean, what, at best we drop $1,000, or at worst I should say. Stochastics are reset. We're oversold. The last time we were oversold, we were at our lows. The time before that, we were oversold. We were at a relative low. We did move lower, though, technically, right? Typically, whenever the stochastics are oversold like this, that's just a reset for the uptrend to resume. And it does seem, in my opinion, as if things are a little bit different here than they were here. We're not really in this downtrend. We're in the consolidation phase now. So I really do think the stochastics look positive here. The RSI, it's got positive things going for it. I'm a bit disappointed here with it, but you do have positive things going for you. Higher highs, higher lows, stuff like that. You don't need to come all the way down here. You don't need to at all. You could find support right here in the RSI, right where you are now. You can go a little bit lower. It doesn't matter. But overall, I don't mind the 4 hour. It actually seems to me as though the next attempt up should take us into the overbought zone. And if that's the case, we might get a weekend pump. Maybe Saturday, Sunday is bullish. Maybe not. Maybe it's postponed until Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, somewhere in that time frame, which it typically is. The MACD here, rejecting the zero, this is the one thing that I have a problem with. And to be completely fair, rejecting the zero, building bearish momentum while your stochastics are barely oversold, there's definitely room to come down here. But again, is it enough to send you below this low? I don't think so. And even if it does, even if we do see prices below this low here at 86K, I think we're fine as long as we don't break through 85K. I'd really like it if this MACD cross was a false cross. If this was something like one of these where we rejected here, but it was a false cross and we kept fighting it off, and then eventually we got the bullish pump. That's what I would hope to see here. The 1 hour time frame certainly supports this idea. The 4 hour time frame supports it enough, I suppose, but time is the ultimate factor there. Is this the low? Did we just put in the low like 5 minutes ago, or do we move higher? Or do we move lower is what I meant to say. Looking at the daily indicators, the RSI here is weird. It's actually weird. I mean, you're at a good place to bounce at the 40 technically, but it's weird. More bullish than bearish on the RSI for sure. You're in bearish territory here, but you're more bullish overall than you are bearish. You have lower lows in your RSI with higher lows in your price. It's hidden bullish divergence. Stochastics are reset. They're ready to go, man. I mean, honestly, I don't believe this price action. Like, I feel like what we're seeing with the indicators doesn't line up with what we're seeing in the price here. So if today closes here or lower, I would actually be surprised. I very much am expecting that we'll pull back up today. That doesn't mean today has to close green. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if it did, if we were closing above 90K by the end of the day. MACD is right at an area to find support. Time will tell. It is Thursday. Tomorrow's Friday. And then we have the weekend, and typically the weekend's very boring. It's completely acceptable for Bitcoin if it doesn't make any moves over the weekend, but with some of the stuff that's set up, I wouldn't be surprised if we got one of those rare weekend pumps. It really could happen. But statistically speaking, we don't really do much on the weekends, so don't expect that. The most practical, statistically backed outcome, if we're expecting the upside, would be that we make some movement today and tomorrow, we pause over the weekend, and then we continue making movements the following week. That's what I'll end with. Overall, I assume that in this zone, we're going to break out. It's going to be just like this zone. We break out. It took us from this high to this low longer than it took us from this low to this high to achieve price action. And I think we're going to see the same thing happen here. It took us longer to get down here than it will to get up here. Once we start making the move, you know. And if we don't just make it all the way up to new all-time highs in one fell swoop, more or less, if it's not a BART like that, I would at least expect that we BART up, quote-unquote, BART to this area here, around 110 to 107K, somewhere in that zone. I've got nothing else. Hit that like button, subscribe. Expecting a breakout any day now. Probably sometime next week, if anything. Take care. Bye-bye.